Last week we have like a 3-week series on having a generous lifestyle, and last week we talked about kind of having a mindset of abundance like God. Number one, we talked about how God has everything. My Father has everything. My Father has everything. He has all the power, all the authority, all the time, all the knowledge, all the understanding, all the foresight, all the resources. I could go on and on. My Father has everything. And this is biblical. It's not what you know, it's who you know. It's not how much you have, it's who you're related to. My Father owns everything. Number two, you have more than you think. You have more grace, more forgiveness, more ability, more everything than you think. Number three, I talked about how your resources in the kingdom of God, your resources expand as you use them. They don't shrink. They actually get bigger. They get more. So that's how we need to start thinking, to have an abundant mindset. And so this week, what I wanted to talk about is, I love examples in the Bible. I love to just go to examples. And, examples are a great way to show us how to kind of have a generous lifestyle. So I was looking around and I found a fantastic verse that every verse has a principle in it about having a generous lifestyle. It's out of 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 1. I'll read there. We'll read together. And now, brothers and sisters, I want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches. In the midst, listen to this verse. This one still blows my mind every time I read it. In the midst of their severe, very severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty, it welled up into rich generosity. Wow. We'll talk about it. For I testify that they gave as much as they were able, and even beyond their ability, entirely on their own. They urgently pleaded with us. They pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in this service to the Lord's people. And they exceeded our expectations. They gave first of all to the Lord. They gave themselves first to the Lord, and then, by the will of God, also to us. So we urge Titus, just as he had made a beginning, to bring also to completion this act of grace on your part. But since you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in love, love we have kindled in you, see that you excel in the grace of giving. What an example of a generous lifestyle, both for an individual and as a community. So this is what we need to be. We need to have, this is a great example for not only you as an individual, but for us as a community, how we should live. And so let's just go. I'm just going to walk scripture, verse by verse, showing you each principle that are in all 7 of these verses. I think I have 6 principles. First one, being graceful. If you want to have a generous lifestyle, you need to be graceful. Graceful, not grateful. Graceful. Why? Verse 1 says this. And now, brothers and sisters, I want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches. See, the grace is, you have a gift to give. You are a gift to give. You have been given resources by God, whatever it is. All of those are graces. All graces. The Bible's clear, full of this whole understanding that everything you have is basically a grace gift. It's a gift of grace. And so we need to be graceful in everything. It says this, and God is able to make all grace abound in you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. It's a grace. If you want to have a generous lifestyle, if you want to be that kind of person, a generous person, then you need to realize that everything you have is a grace, and you give that grace out to others. Romans 8 says this, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If it is giving, then give generously. First Peter 4 says this in verse 10. Each one of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in various forms. Everything that you have has been given to you. It's a package, and God gives it to you. It's called grace. So your wallet in your back pocket is hopefully filled with grace. Yeah, like, think about it. Your bank account is filled with grace. Your heart is filled with grace. Can I get an amen? And that is to be given out. Your words are grace gifts to others. How you doing with your words? How do you do when you give out your words? Are they filled with grace, or are they filled with other things? Everything you have is grace, and it's to be given out if you want to have a generous lifestyle. Number 2, being joyful. Being joyful. Look at this verse. In the midst of their severe, very severe trial, their overwhelming joy, their overflowing joy, and their extreme poverty. How many here have seen someone who is full of joy in severe trial and extreme poverty? Most of the time, no, yeah? Most of the time it's, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. And they look inward. But here, how does poverty well up to generosity? How does poverty well up to generosity? Because they didn't think that they had poverty. Because they already had heard last week's message about having an abundant mindset. Like the widow who came to the prophet and she only had like a little bit of flour left. And he says, give it to me. Give that little oil and that little flour that's enough for just one loaf of bread. Give it to me. And so they gave it to him. They gave what they had. And as they gave what they had, God supplied more. And they never went hungry. They never went hungry. And these people somehow realized that in their state, whatever state they were in, that they had something to give. They had a generous lifestyle. Now, I'm going to leave this for 1 second, and I want to, there's another verse that I didn't put down here. It's later in the chapter, and it is the most amazing verse ever. I love this verse. It's one of my favorite verses in the Bible. Every verse in the Bible is my favorite. It says this. It says, and it's talking about the 2 churches. It says, what you lacked, they had. And what they lacked, you had. And somehow you both gave to each other. Now, here's the interesting part, is there was one church who had basically nothing. They had poverty. They had extreme trials. The other church didn't have anything, any money. They had nothing. That's what the whole thing was. They were raising money for this church. This other church didn't have any money. Everybody had need, right? But here's what it's saying. This is the most amazing thing. So this church raised money to give to this other church. This is the need. The need was to fill that need, to give money to that need. Okay, what did this church need? They had a need to give. See, this to me is the most amazing verse ever. So let's say you're someone who has money. Let's say you have wealth. You have great need. That's how they're thinking. That's what Paul is talking about. You have wealth. You have great need. Let's say you're tremendously talented, an amazing, gifted, whatever. You have great need. Your need is to give out to those who have a need. And they fulfill your need. That's what he's talking. To me, that is amazing. That's amazing. And so what happens is everyone's needs are met. Those who have plenty meet the needs of those who don't have as much, And those who don't have as much, fulfill the need of those who have plenty. We don't think that way a lot. We don't. I got what I need. See, I got what I need. I got everything I need. Oh, pressed down, shaken together, running on. I got everything I need. No, you need one more thing. You need to give. You need to have a generous lifestyle and give out. It's really amazing. So here you are in a situation. You got one person who's hurting, who's had a very difficult trial, a difficult time, who, I don't know, just went through a breakup, or who just had just something really bad happen to them in life, and you are filled with grace and abundance because you've had a good lifestyle. You have a need. Give that encouragement to that person. Fulfill their need. And your need is being fulfilled as you give out. That's what that's talking about. And so these people, they had some kind of just joyous understanding that, you know what? It's great. I've got this need to give out. Let's just give it out. Can't you see it? I can see it happening. Because there's always a Judas in the church. There's always a Judas in a church. There's always a Judas in the church. We could have given that. Why are you? Here's the woman with the perfume, right? She comes in to Jesus. She has this great need to give out to Jesus and pour out on Jesus everything she has. She has this expensive 1-year salary worth of perfume. And she begins to pour it out on Jesus. What a waste. Judas is always saying, what a waste. What a waste. No, it's not a waste to pour out on Jesus. No, it's not a waste to pour out on someone who's in need. It's not a waste, and probably getting ahead of myself. Am I getting my health? Yeah, I'll just go to the next one. Number 3, be sacrificial. Verse 3, I testify that they gave as much as they were able. Okay, they were good. They're good right there. Pas. Well, good. Even beyond their ability. Entirely on their own. No coercion. It's one of the reasons I believe with all my heart that we would stop take a collection, through plates. You want to give? It's right back there. Entirely on your own. No coercion. You do what you think God wants you to do. And I can say this, that there are many here who give beyond their ability. They do. It's amazing what happens. The question is, do we live this kind of sacrificial lifestyle, not just giving to the church, but everywhere? Remember last week I said, be someone who rounds up, not rounds down. So someone's in need of, like a couple of juta, don't give them a couple of juta. Give them 2.5. Someone buys something for you, like online. They buy something for you online because you don't have that account or whatever, and you got to transfer them money, and they say they owe, you owe them, you owe them, 325,000. Well, give them 350. You see what happens when you do that. They're like, you only owe me 325. I said, yeah, I know, I'm just blessing you. My niece taught me this one. When she goes out, when we go out to dinner, she'll try to pay first. And then I'm going to pay. No, don't you steal my blessing. I love you more. It's a blessing. That's how they think about it. They think of it sacrificially. They go for it. They go over and above everything, not through manipulation. Now let me say this one more thing. What's really interesting is that God tests us. He does. He tests us. He tests us. But it's easy if I was to come over and God was to come over to Carol and say, hey, today, Carol, it's a test today. I want to see how much you're going to give. You're being tested. I'm watching you. Those are the easy ones because you're being tested. But God doesn't do it that way. Remember the guy? Remember the king who came to the prophet, and the prophet said to him, strike the ground with the arrows. So the guy strikes 3 times, and the prophet goes, "Oh, you dummy, you dummy! You should have struck at least 5 or 6 times, because if you did 5 or 6 times, the enemy would have been wiped out. Instead, blah 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 is going to happen." And he's like, "Can I take the test over?" He doesn't know he's being tested. So God, he's testing us. What is your lifestyle? Is your lifestyle full of joy, full of sacrificial generosity out to the world in everything you have? Is that because that's what he's checking? Remember the parable. Remember the parable where the person comes, he gets put away from God, and God says, when I was sick, you visited me. When I was poor, you gave to me. When I was in prison, you visited me. And they said, "When, Lord? When were you? When were you? When were you?" Like, they didn't know he was everywhere. And the other ones didn't know Jesus was there either. They didn't know God was there. And he says, "Enter in." And they go, "We get to enter in? Why?" "Because when I was hungry, when I was thirsty, when I was in prison, when I was blah, 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 right? You gave it to me." And they're like, When? See, they were naturally doing it. They were naturally sacrificial. They were naturally joyous. They were naturally giving above their own ability because they had a generous lifestyle. People with generous lifestyles don't count. I'm not saying you shouldn't budget. I'm not saying you shouldn't be a good steward. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is they're not going, "I have 5 loaves and 2 fishes, God. That doesn't make it. It doesn't add up. Doesn't add up." I forget. Oh, it was the financial thing we did on Wednesday night. One of the women said, no, it was I think it was Aldo that said. Somebody said it. Somebody smart said it. Something. But they basically said they kept adding up, their stuff in the future. They kept adding it up, and they added up, and it never adds up. It doesn't add up right. It's like, "Oh no, I'm going to be in trouble. Oh no, I'm going to be in trouble." And someone said to me, "There's a problem with your calculations. There's a problem with your formula." He's like, "What's the problem?" "You're not putting God in the calculation. You're forgetting to put God in the calculation." So generous people, they're not counters. They're just bubbling over. That's what generous people are. So that's verse 3. Verse 4, being willing. They urgently pleaded. They pleaded for the privilege of sharing in the service to the Lord's people. They were pleading. I have yet to have this happen to me in all of my pastoring. Someone come up to me and say, "Pastor, where's the envelope? I need to give. Please let me give." That's what they did. They're like, "We want to." Because I'm assuming that Paul probably said to them, "You guys are in severe trials. You don't have any money. You're in poverty. You relax. Take it easy." Probably what was going on. And they're like, "No, we want to give. That's our heart. Our heart is to give. Our heart is to give. We want to help." And I'm not just talking about money. We want to help. I've taught my staff, I've taught all the volunteers, I said, just get used to it. And they're like, "Get used to what?" You're never going to have enough. You'll never have enough. There'll never be enough volunteers. There'll never be enough, they're just never going to be enough. And part of the reason for that, there's 2 reasons for that. One, when we have enough, we always do more. We do. We do. This year, just so you know, our goal this year is to at least I want to build at least 2 homes for the poor this year. It's one of my goals. I haven't told the church that that's their goal yet, but that's the goal. It's one of the goals. But so there's 2 reasons. One, when you don't have enough, when you have enough, you're going to do more. But most of the time, the reason why we don't do more is because we don't have enough volunteers. I just said to Carol they just went to Karangasem. Where'd you guys go yesterday? Karangasem, wherever you went. Yes, yesterday for the outreach. They did a medical outreach and stuff. And Carol said, I need to go around the house, our house, because I have these like cheap glasses, and I have I don't know how many pairs around the house, so I don't lose them. I don't lose them because they're everywhere. I lose them, I just find another pair because there they are, right? Carol's like, I got to go around and collect them because there's so many people coming to come to the medical clinic and say they're struggling with their eyesight. So I want to give out the glasses to them. And I said, I know that Pastor Jessica can go and buy, really cheap glasses. We've done it before. And then this was Carol's answer. She said, yeah, but that means one more person coming on the medical trip to hand them out. And we don't have enough people. There is one instance in the Bible, in the Old Testament, where they actually told the people to stop giving because they had more than enough. There's only one in the Bible that happens. God promises you, pressed down, shaken together, running over, you'll have more than enough. Do we have a generous lifestyle like this? Do we look not just to the church? I'm not talking about just the church. Do we look and plead to have an opportunity to give out to others? Do we look for opportunities? Or do we add up the number of hours we have in a week and say, I need some of my own time? Just got done spending 45 minutes scrolling. Look out, Donald. Going to get in trouble now. It's amazing how people that have generous lifestyles have so much time to give out. And you know what? They only have the same amount of time as you do. I don't know, what am I on? Number 5, verse 5, number 5. Be amazing. Be amazing. And they exceeded our expectations. They gave themselves first of all to the Lord, and then by the will of God to us. I guarantee you, you give your life to the Lord, and you will always do the second part. Make me an instrument. Make me an instrument, Lord. Make me an instrument. Make me an instrument. In the church, we've seen it happen over the years, people looking for positions. They want a position in the church. They want a position in the church, And I always say, you know what, you ain't going to get no position until you're so necessary that we need to give you a position. They want it first, and then they'll do. Most of the people who are working in the church staff here or anywhere else in the church, it's because they were doing so much that the people said, we need you. Be amazing. Be amazing. When you walked into the room, you've heard me say this before, everything changes. When you walk into a room, what atmosphere? What atmosphere comes in the room with you? Oh no, so-and-so's coming in the room. Come on now. You know those takers suck the energy right out of you? Or do you walk in the room and go, cool. Wes is here. We're excited Wes is here. I'm so glad he's here, because things start pouring out of the person who walks in the room, because they're givers and they're giving out. They're giving out encouragement. They're giving out blessings. It's just a generous lifestyle. They're amazing people. They're amazing people. And you always go, wow, they do amazing things. And you think that there's someone like someone amazing, but really they're not. They're not any different than anyone else. They just decided that when they give out, their resources expand. They just decided that they're going to be a blessing in any way possible. And Carol and I have received gifts from people who have absolutely nothing, and it is some of the best gifts we've ever received. It has nothing to do with what they gave us. We were so blessed. So it doesn't matter how much you have. Out of their extreme trials and poverty, they welled up in generosity. They were amazing. Let's be an amazing church, yeah? Let's be an amazing church. As a church, let's do that. Not just as an individual. Let's do it as a church. And we were talking about that on Wednesday night, and I'm almost done, so if you're bored with me, yeah, okay. But on Wednesday night, we did that financial seminar, and I was talking with, I won't use his name, but he was talking about how he's done amazing things for New Tribe. He has turned everything around for us in the finances. And if it wasn't for him, we would have been in big trouble. And he didn't save a dime. Matter of fact, he used to hate me along the way as he's doing it because, man, the watchers and the leaders would say, we hear this church has a need, and we're like, come on. People helped us, we got to help them. So we put a number on it, and then I come over to so-and-so, and I come over to him, I go, well, guess what? The leaders just decided to give money. What? Give money out? Okay. But he's got to see God move. And God is always blessed as we give because what? Resources don't shrink. They expand. What is your heart? What kind of heart do you have? Do you live a generous lifestyle? Number 6, being committed. I love that verse. I won't share much on this, but it says, so urge Titus, just as he had earlier made a beginning, to bring it also to completion. This act is of grace on your part. Remember if you know the story of the Samaritan man who was hurt, or the man who was hurt, the Samaritan comes, and what does he do? He helps the person out. He picks him up. He puts him on his donkey. He brings him to the hotel. He patches him up, and then as the guy is probably laying upstairs in his hotel, hurting, just recovering, getting better, as the Samaritan's leaving, he says to the hotel guy, here's some extra cash. Make sure that he's okay. Any expenses I'll cover. He completes the work. He completes the work. So just because you are generous, not just in money, I keep going back to that. I don't want it to, it's not about money. It's about your heart. And so as you give out, do you make sure that the work is completed? That's what they did. And then finally, number 7, they were excelling, always excelling. Now, we use this word excellence. Excellence is sometimes it's impossible because we equate excellence with perfection. But we believe in excellence. And what we define excellence to be is just getting better all the time. Just doing better all the time. So the next time you just do better than you did the last time. And the next time you do better than you. So you might start out really bad. But the next time you'll be better. The next time you'll be better. That's what excelling is. Excelling is that. And so it says, since you excel in everything, in faith and speech, wow, listen, what a community. I would love this to be said about our community. I'm not saying it's not. It's just, man, it'd be nice if someone wrote that. In faith and speech and knowledge and complete earnestness, in love, we have kindled in you. But wouldn't that be great? I mean, I think we have that. But if someone I don't want to say that about us because, I want to be humble. I want someone else to say it about us. See that you also excel in this grace of giving. They excelled beyond the ordinary. They weren't ordinary. So this idea of a generous lifestyle, I just want to put all 7 up on the screen. This is the 7 characteristics of a generous lifestyle of a generous church. Here's the thing. We can look at that and we could say, all right, I need to be graceful. I need to be. And then we can strive. And I would say, don't be a striver. Striving is not the way. Simply surrender. It is one of my favorite words. There's a few favorite words I have in Bahasa. I think actually the Bahasa word for surrender is better than the English word. Butera. And the reason I like it is kind of at the end, you just got to go, Butera. Like I have to surrender by the end of the word. And if you surrender to God, unless a kernel of wheat falls in the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much fruit. Your life is not your own. I know you think it is. Some of you know it's not. Your life is not your own. You were bought. You were bought with a price. The Bible says very clearly, you were bought with a price. God paid for you. You were so valuable that he died. He paid his own life for you. That's how valuable he thinks you are. But now, live for Christ. It is no longer I that lives, but Christ that lives in me. When we start thinking like that, everything around us becomes God's. Everything in us becomes God's. We are simply vessels to be used by him. You are allowed to yell at God when you are in that position of giving out and doing all that stuff, and you like you can yell out to God, God, I need more. Because he knows that you will give that away. You will use it for his glory, and he will pour into you. That's what it says. Last thought. That's what it says in John chapter 15. I am the vine, and you are the branch. He is the vine, and we are the branches. When we abide in him, we will bear much fruit. Apart from him, we can bear nothing. When we let the flow of God flow through us, we will bear much fruit. And the fruit is never for ourselves. It's always for others and for the next generation. Let's pray. Jesus, we